somebody asked me yesterday, well, don't you feel good about the fact that the budget's getting so much attention? What do you think?
The bruise you see on my forehead this morning is me constantly banging my forehead against the brick wall last night, listening to the president's speech. I'm glad people are concerned about the deficit, but I don't see any real conversation about improving it in any way. I think both sides are making promises that they just can't keep. The president last night made a commitment that his budget would reduce future deficits by $2 trillion, and then went on a spree about how he wants to, pass paid Family Medical Leave Act, paid childcare, restore the CARES Act child tax credit, increase affordable housing, provide more financial support for home caregivers, make education more affordable, universal pre-K, increase Pell Grants, free community college for 2 years. I mean, just on and on, a laundry list. He did talk about some revenue raisers, but I think we all know that there is no appetite for tax increases in either party. And on the flip side, Republicans are promising to balance the budget in the 10th year, put forward a balanced budget, without touching entitlements and without raising taxes. And I'm just, I just don't think either one is credible. So I'm looking forward to the budget chicanery that we see in each one of them, because I just think there's going to be some funky math in there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. And speaking of funky math, as our chief economist, Steve, what stood out for you?
Well, a perfect example of what Tori's talking about. So before the pandemic, we were running deficits of about $1 trillion. And of course, during the pandemic, we had all the emergency spending, and the deficit ran up to about $3 trillion. And now that the pandemic spending has ended, we're back down to $1 trillion. So, last night, President Biden was saying, well, I cut the deficit by almost $2 trillion. It's sort of like, the guy who puts on an extra 30 pounds, and then he pats himself on the back for losing 20 of the 30 pounds. You're still right back where worse than where you started. It's just, it's clearly both parties have boxed themselves in. You've got, after the president accused the Republicans of wanting to sunset Social Security, and they all said, oh, no, we don't want to do that. And he said, okay, so we've all agreed we're not going to touch Social Security and Medicare. Well, it's kind of hard to balance the budget if you're going to take those off the table. And then, of course, the president failed to point out that he just got through, if his student loan proposals go through, he just added $1 trillion to the deficit. So, I didn't, unless I missed it, I don't think there was any mention last night, other than increasing Pell Grants. I don't think there was any mention of the student loan issue.
Exactly. You're exactly right. That was in my notes. I'm like, no mention. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, unless the courts saves the administration from itself, they just added $1 trillion to the deficit before they ever got started in trying to reduce the deficit. And you've got the tax cuts that expire, the 2017 tax cuts expire in 2025. Well, he says he's not going to raise taxes on anybody making under 400,000. Well, as much as the Democrats have liked to criticize the tax cuts for the rich, the 2017 tax cut taxes for everybody, including those under 400,000. So if you let those expire, by most people's definition, that's going to be a tax increase for those who make under 400,000.
The moment that crystallized the budget debate for me was when President said we should stand up for seniors, and literally everybody stood up for seniors.
Yeah.
When has that ever been a problem?
That's the problem. We've been standing up too much.
The thing about the debt is, what about standing up for kids? Now, he's got a lot of proposals that, this Tory went through. But even if those were all enacted, and even if they were all paid for, you still have this budget on an unsustainable track. And there used to be a time when presidents of both parties did at least pay lip service to the idea that there was a long-term budget problem and that it was unfair to future generations and we need to, work together on fixing this problem. And wow, this was the biggest sort of, forget about all that. We're sticking up for seniors. And I think it's just going to make it really, really difficult